We're living in a time of accelerated change that's evidenced by the increase in catastrophic fire that we're experiencing across California, the flood and extreme water events that we've also received over this last year, and then also the increase in pest infestation. It's a time of really significant change and rapid pace of change.
When water's gone and the plants are gone and things are destroyed, you won't be able to replace them. What's money going to do for you?
This is a crucial part of just Native philosophy is not thinking of resources, but thinking of relatives. You are part of me, and I am part of you, so we need to do what's best for each other in order to survive.
Growing up here, going through the creek was always a thing of so much joy to us. Our medicines grew down there, our food grew down there. We'd eat watercress, we'd eat pine nuts, and we would eat sour berries. The boys would go fishing, and we didn't pollute the creek. Even young as we were, we never did do anything, throw trash in a creek or break bottles or anything like that. It was sacred. And then it got overgrown, and then it got polluted. So those things weren't growing there anymore.
All these native grasses, right here, all these bunch grasses, these are all things that give us a sign and an indication of what used to be here before the blackberry took over. So the Himalayan blackberry is actually from northern Iran. It's also known as Armenian blackberry, and it creates a monoculture. It took over this whole floodplain right here and shaded out any of the understory plants that might be able to come up and grow.
You know, they called us Indian givers. Yeah, we are really Indian givers. We give of the land. You know, we give of everything. And we don't ask too much back. We just ask for a little respect and a little bit of taking care of what we've given you. And if they're not going to take care of it, and they're going to desecrate it and pollute the waters there, then that makes me angry. You know, we knew we were a hidden little valley, you know, little Eden a long time ago, and that's why the miners came in. And then they murdered the natives. Before that, the Spanish came in and they rounded them up and they made them slaves. So with trauma, there's been a lot of trauma in our history. I think getting back some of the little peace that we have of working with the plants, the medicines, it heals that wound. We were the first stewards of the land. And that's what I feel like we should still be doing. And we are doing this down here now.
Mariposa Creek is one of the main watersheds in Mariposa County. It's not connected to a major river system, but it collects a large watershed of these lower foothills and drains it down to the Central Valley, running right next to the main town of Mariposa. Mariposa County, realizing that it had a vision of a Mariposa Creek Parkway, which is a walkway. It's an active transportation walkway. It's also an economic driver where people can come down from the downtown corridor. They can take a walk. We have the arts park along the Creek Parkway. It's an activated linear park space. It's a vision that the county has had for a long time, since the 1980s, but has never really kicked off like it has in the last couple of years. So the Detweiler fire in 2017 gave us a wake-up call when the fire burned right to the edge of town, just north of here along Mariposa Creek. We realized that we needed to have more fire protection around the town area, and we worked with Sierra Foothill Conservancy to acquire several different parcels along the Mariposa Creek Parkway and up the hill to the west side of town. These acquisitions started snowballing activity along the Creek Parkway, and it really starts with the restoration activity of healing the land, allowing people to come back into this landscape, allowing the indigenous stewards of this land to be back in their natural space, and then sharing that with the community as well.
So the first step of the project is to remove the invasive species that have really colonized the entire creek space.
We just did our first invasive removal, which was targeting the species that is most dominant here and has taken over the landscape, which is the Himalayan blackberry. We then took that vegetation, put it into piles for burning.
And just a reminder, everybody sign it.
This is what's going to happen is Mark's going to go along and start some piles. Right now we're going to see how well they're going to burn. And then we'll just assign people to tend to those piles.
Through the RFFCP grant that we've received through the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, we've been able to build out a project scope that includes both the interest and participation of the land trust, but also the interest and participation of the tribe.
Our tribe went through a lot of tragedy that resulted in not the loss of our culture, but it threatened our culture. It threatened our connection with our landscapes.
I wish my dog would do this. She's like...
You know, it's an opportunity to heal those reciprocal relationships between our people and our plants that we use and that we live on, as well as kind of healing our culture, which is something that was on the brink of extinction as well. There has been an obscene amount of species introduced to California, which it's just had consequences, for better or for worse. And a lot of these species are not the fire-adapted species that our people are used to.
One of the interesting things about restoration is we have to ask ourselves, to what degree and what time are we restoring the landscape? There are many species that have naturalized in California over the last several hundred years. With this phase of the restoration on the Mariposa Creek Parkway, we're focused on removing the species that are most aggressive and outcompeting native species. And what's really interesting that we're learning is by removing these invasive species, there's actually still a lot of our native seed bank intact.
weather to come around, things dry up a little bit more before we light that back corner. But ideally what we're going to do is probably start from the fire up there and bring it down.
By partnering with our local tribe, we're also able to reintroduce the traditional practices that were so key to stewarding these landscapes for thousands of years and keeping them in the healthy, beautiful, diverse state that they were before Western people ended up moving into this area.
I think what's on everybody's mind right now is wildfire. It's very much this impending threat that as soon as things start to dry out, as soon as the weather gets warm, everybody on the West Coast is thinking about fire and how's it going to affect our community this year. What people don't think a lot about is what's the fire's role in the ecology and why are these fires becoming so intense? And it has a lot to do, of course, with forest management. It has a lot to do with invasive species. It has a lot to do with the hydrology of our state right now. You know, of course, some of that is beyond our control, like drought, but some of them are very much human-induced. And one of the biggest parts of that is the suppression of natural fire and the natural fire regimes.
There you go. Nice.
It's becoming more and more known that indigenous folks in California and all over used fire for their own benefit, but also for the benefit of the landscape.
Cultural fire has more multifaceted goals and objectives than prescribed fire. Prescribed fire is typically for the purpose of removing vegetation, the purpose of removing fuel load so that we will have less catastrophic fires on an ongoing basis. Cultural fire has goals that return the healing and regenerative powers of fire and its byproducts to the landscape.
When our ancestors left Yosemite, they used to set fire to it and burn it off. They probably burned it off like that because it got rid of all the invasive plants, all the bugs and all the things that would come in on horses, whatever. A lot of these plants, they need that. They need to be burnt. Like with the redbud, when you burn them, not a hot fire, but with a fire and you trim them, the next year you have these nice long shoots that come up. And it's the same way with sour berries too.
In this project, bringing the cultural burning back has been really crucial. One, because it's just strengthening our community, having intergenerational learning about these ancient techniques. But it's also been really crucial to reintroduce the fire for the health of the landscape.
So there is a prescriptive fire process that is pretty well defined in California, but cultural fire is something that we still need to work on. And it's really critical that we work together to make it easier to return cultural fire to California. We've developed a planting palette with the tribe, and so they have determined the plants that they would like to see restored and that they would like to have access to for tending and gathering over time.
This week we're going to be doing some native plant restoration right here in the creek, as you can see behind me. As a tribal steward, I use a lot of the modern techniques that we use to manage these lands, but I also try to do it with an indigenous perspective and have the traditional culture with it as well. So it's a double-edged sword, you know, trying to use it. modern problems require modern solutions. So we use those modern solutions to get back to our traditional problems and solutions, so we can use our traditional ways to manage, the land. But as of right now, because of all the mismanagement and stuff, we have to use chainsaws and weed eaters and pole saws, and we got to use what we got to use to get back down to this base level.
When we start a project like this, what is restoration? How do you decide if you've restored something if you don't have a lot of records of the original condition or baseline condition? So what you do is you measure change against what you want to see. So we did that with vegetation or plants by doing transect surveys. So essentially, if you look at this orange post here, you can see one across all the way. And what we do is every 50 meters, the length of the project, we run a line from one of these to the other that have little dots every 25 inches. And so we go through and we get to a dot and we say, what plant is above us, what plant is touching us, and what plant is below us. All right, Chris, I'm ready when you are. You can start calling them out.
All right. I'm gonna call that a blackberry. 8, we have vetch debris. 17, we've got water. 18, water. 19, water. 20, water. 41, we got fennel, thistle, dead nettle.
So these stay through the life of the project, and we'll do them every spring so we can measure change in the types of plants that we're coming across.
So even just in the short couple years we've been out here, and just the early planting that we've done, we're already seeing natural recruitments that are taking advantage of the areas that we've cleaned out up here.
We've seen a lot of toads and frogs come back where they were here previously, but we've seen an increase in their occupation of the project site. I've heard coyote down here. There have been a lot more deer. We saw bobcat 3 times this year just because it's opening up. And we've also seen a lot more birds of prey. Recently, we've had a beaver occupying the end of the parkway here in a willow thicket, and we have not seen it in form, but we've seen the chewing on the willow, his construction activities.
Guys, come try this. It's really good.
Oh my God, yeah. Hell yeah. Masu crew right there, baby. The beaver.
This project's really more than the sum of its parts. This is a true keystone project, which means that it's something that everybody can rally around.
Put more soil in.
And then it builds off of itself. That core Creek Parkway project has been a real catalyst for all sorts of positive community action.
People say, what can we do to help out? A lot of times they don't know what they can do, and so this creek restoration is one thing where they can start to build themselves into something and to start doing restoration on this land, to help on all the land, all over, to value it. We call it Mother Earth. She supplies everything for us, our food and medicines, and takes care of the animals. So if we don't take care of her, then she won't take care of us.
Oftentimes in land conservation work, we think about the start and end date of a restoration project and really specific deliverables that are going to be met within that time frame. And by working with our Indigenous partners, we're learning about a more holistic and ongoing commitment to the stewardship of these lands that is less linear and it's ongoing.
You know, it started as a great idea that this is an area that's really significant to the tribe. We should bring them in and have them help and get their input and see what kind of plants are important to them. And it's really evolved from that to we really are healing reciprocal relationships and elevating our tribal people and elevating the health of our landscapes.
We're not here to tear anything down or to redo anything, but we're actually trying to just preserve it, to put it back to the way that it was. It's never going to be completely back to the way it was, but at least let us try to do the things that we can right now, to preserve the things that we can.
Hallelujah.